An IVA is an individual voluntary arrangement. I'll explain to you exactly how this debt solution works, the pros and cons, and then you'll have a good understanding of IVAs by the end of this video. You've probably heard a lot of mixed messages about IVAs, and there's a lot of misinformation out there. Some reports make out that they're a miracle solution for your debt and don't tell you about any of the consequences. Others make out that IVAs are terrible. I want to clear all of this up and give you a clear picture of what they really are. Sometimes when you get into debt and you've got to a point when the debt has become unaffordable, it can feel very overwhelming. After all your payments come out, you could be left with very little to live on. This means essentials like food and bills can become a real struggle. This is when people turn to debt solutions for help. IVA started in the 80s and they were created for people who wanted to avoid bankruptcy. This means that if you have assets, so things like a car or a house, an IVA could work out better for you, but it depends on your situation. An IVA is a legally binding agreement between you and your creditors to pay back a set amount for 5 years or 6 years. Usually, you pay back less than you owe, and then at the end of the completed term, some of the debts are written off. There's also an IVA lump sum payment option, which I'll tell you about in a minute. You give your payments to the insolvency practitioner. Every year they'll check in and see how things are going. If your finances have changed, then they'll need to assess if you need to make different payments going forward. IVAs aren't suited to everybody. You'll need to be unable to pay back your current debts, live in England, Wales or Northern Ireland. Don't worry if you live in Scotland, we've got another option for you. You'll need to owe more than one creditor, and IVAs can cover unsecured debt. So this is things like credit cards, loans and overdrafts. IVAs don't include debts like mortgages and secured loans, hire purchase agreements, student loans, court fines, TV licence arrears and child support arrears. We can talk about whether you qualify for an IVA over the phone. There are two different types of IVAs, either a lump sum payment or a fixed term arrangement. Now the first type involves paying off your debts in one large lump sum. Now this option is reserved for a select few who have the money to clear a substantial amount of debt in a single payment. The most common option is a fixed term arrangement. Here you agree to repay a set amount over 5 or 6 years. Your insolvency practitioner meticulously assesses your income and expenditure to determine a realistic monthly repayment plan. This is so that you've got a reasonable amount of money to live on and your plan is then affordable for you. It's really important to be across both the pros and the cons before you make an educated decision. So I'll run those through with you now. Let's start with the pros. You can consolidate your debts, which means one affordable payment every month. The interest and charges are frozen once the IVA is in place, so the amount that you're paying is chipping away at the debt. You won't have to communicate with your creditors because your insolvency practitioner handles that. Creditors can't pursue legal action during the IVA. You have an insight to when your payments will end, as IVAs typically last about 5 years and then any remaining debt's written off. Now let me explain the things that you need to take into consideration. An IVA will affect your credit rating for 6 years. This will impact future access to credit and your credit score will be low. Once your IVA is approved by creditors, it's a strict agreement with limited flexibility. If your financial situation improves, this could increase your payments, and that includes windfalls and inheritance. You will pay administrative fees charged by the insolvency practitioner. They're included in your affordable monthly repayments, but it is something to be mindful of. Your spending will also be monitored. If they're reviewed, any excessive spending could be questioned. Any changes in your financial circumstances should be reported to your insolvency practitioner. If you've got any questions or you want to know if you qualify, give us a call on 01706 404 143.